Welcome to Beyond the O.R with Dr. Kevin Brenner. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. I want to take you beyond my world of plastic surgery, diving deep into exciting hot topics and delving even deeper into compelling characters that I've met along the way. We'll be talking with attorneys, actors, comedy writers, Navy SEALs, and many other fascinating and inspiring people with truly intriguing stories to share. So let's jump right in. Welcome back to Beyond the O.R. We're back in the studio with a very special guest today, a versatile talent known for her captivating presence on both the big screen and television. She has graced the cover of numerous magazines, capturing our imaginations on the big screen in movies such as, you may know, Species. I remember it well. She is a force to be reckoned with. Beyond all the glitz and glamour, our guest has dedicated herself to philanthropy, using her platform to support causes close to her heart. Please join us as we delve into her origin story, learn about her journey and her latest projects, and maybe uncover a few surprises along the way. Please help me welcome the incredibly beautiful and incredibly talented Natasha Henstridge.
Oh,
there we go. Welcome.
What an intro.
So nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
Well,
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. That's all I'm going to say.
Natasha did not write any of that intro, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
So with this, this is a very friendly format, and but let's just tell. Elizabeth doesn't even really know how we know each other.
Well,
Are you okay talking about how we know each other?
I am actually. I thought about that today when you guys invited me on the show, because I've never actually spoken about it before to anyone ever, except for close friends. But yeah, I am. I'm happy to talk about it, and you've done such amazing work in this area. But I came in for an implant removal and a breast lift, and you were highly recommended to me by everyone in town, but particularly for what I was doing. And so I came in and you fixed me all up. You fixed me up. I had 2 kids, nursed, and had a couple of small implants put in. I always had kind of boobs, so I had small implants put in, but then with breast implant illness and time and weight gain and this and that, I had bajungas and felt sick all the time. And came in and you did a beautiful job, and so, yeah.
Well, thank you.
I did the exact.
Did you? It's how you know each other.
That's
as well?
how we met.
We know each other.
Yeah. It
was-
changed. It really made a huge difference
I
in my
was
life.
hospitalized. I was so sick from BII.
Before we operated on you.
Before, yeah.
Yes.
Before.
Yes.
I mean, spoiler alert. I don't want anyone having any ideas, any of our listeners.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it, to be honest with you, at all, but I did start having a lot of weird medical issues for the last 5 years that I had them in.
Yep.
Because I did them like a couple years after my second son was born, he's 22 now, so 20 years ago, and I didn't even realize all of the weird things. And then I started reading about it, and I went, oh my God, this could be me. This is probably what's happening.
Well,
It's hard to say for sure, but I feel a lot better.
For so many people, it's a slow, insidious process. And just by nature of what the original operation is, chronologically, sometimes it happens 10, 15 years after implants are put in. Women often put in implants for the first time in their 20s or 30s, or will have it swapped out in their 20s or 30s. And so they get into their 40s and 50s, and a lot of the symptoms often get either chalked up to or written off as perimenopausal symptoms. And here we are, and yet, right? I mean,
And you're sandwiched between 2 women that would say, when people say it's not real, we can say
Yeah.
it is.
Right.
It was for me. I mean, and I remember, Dr. Brenner, you checking in about it a lot too after the fact when I would come back in for checkups and stuff. You were like, really genuinely wanted to know, are you feeling better? Do you think it's related to this? I mean, you genuinely wanted to know. It's really hard to tell initially, but with time going on and you feel that much better and you don't have tinnitus and your thyroid's evening out and all of these things that were happening are getting better, I'm like, it's got to have something to do with it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's got to.
It's
Do I know for
crazy.
sure? I don't.
No,
entirely,
we
but,
don't
yeah.
know for sure, but there's certainly a lot of coincidences.
That's right.
Yes.
So-
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, you look great. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're feeling great.
Yeah, much better. Thank
You look great and are feeling great.
Yeah, I'm feeling amazing.
And I look great, so
Yeah,
Yes,
you
you
look
do.
great.
good. Okay, we can
You
just
do.
end the show right
Hey,
here.
listen, I'd
You
pat you
match-
on the back, but your hand's in the way.
So okay, so that's not why you're here. We're here. The purpose of this show for me, as I've explained to Elizabeth many times, I like to have people come on who I find genuinely interesting and find out their origin story.
I'm flattered.
Right? So what I want to know, what drives you. So that's where we're going to kind of delve into. So, I say your name, you're a household name. Everyone kind of recognizes that. You started your career. Yeah, no, you don't think.
True,
You don't
he's
think.
right.
Well, maybe after this podcast,
After this, forget
people are
about it.
definitely going to know who you are.
Forget about it.
You started very early on, right? You were a teenager when you started modeling, right?
Yeah, I was really young. Yeah.
And you were originally from Canada.
Yeah.
How did you get at the age of, what were you, 14, 15?
I was 14 when I left town, yeah. When I left the town that I was raised in. So I'm originally from Newfoundland, Canada, which is an island off the East Coast, which I'm very connected to. But I was raised in this oil town called Fort McMurray, Alberta, from the time I was 5 to 14 and a half or so. I actually just went back for Christmas, which was wild.
Oh, wow.
Do you still have a lot of family back there?
I do have some family there. A lot of them have migrated back east, but my brother still lives there. But he always comes here to visit. It's nicer here, warmer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fort Mac, but it's just warmer and sunnier and nicer. I'm just gonna say it.
Canada's sort of in the middle of a deep freeze right now.
Oh,
I saw a patient yesterday, actually, who's from Calgary, and she said that last week, Calgary was the coldest place on the earth last week.
I believe my friends are sending
It's
me
like
videos
it's like
from
negative
there.
65 air
Freezing
temperatures.
inside the homes, yes. 60 below with wind chill and stuff. When I was up in Fort McMurray for Christmas, it was about 5 or 10 below 0 Celsius. And the day I left, it was 27 below. The day I left, I went, oh, thank you, Jesus. It was awesome.
Talk about timing.
Yeah. Oh, my
I've
goodness.
been in that kind of cold in Wisconsin and
intense.
Chicago.
I grew up in it.
It's pretty gnarly.
I grew up in that craziness, which brings me back to your original question. I was like, get me out.
Get me out.
It's too cold. How do I get out? No. My mom sent a photo of me, unbeknownst to me. She sounds like such a little stage mom, and she wasn't. But I think when she was a little girl, she wanted to model. And so she was like, let me just send these pictures off to Edmonton, which was the big city, in Fort Mac. It's, a little kind of north of Calgary. And so she sent these pictures off, and there was John Casablancas had a modeling school there, and one thing led to another, and I ended up going to this modeling school, which is so comical now. But they teach you walking and this and that, and they do a test shoot, and it's all a bunch of, your parents are paying all this money, and basically very few people ever do anything with it, but they get some cute snaps and, So one thing led to another, and they had this international contest, and the first year I ended up going as far as Toronto, and then they entered me in it again. They're like, you're really young. I was 13 or something at the time. So they entered me in this contest the next year, and I ended up going to New York, and then I won sort of on a bigger scale, North America or something like that. I don't remember the details. And they sent me to Paris. And so I ended up going to Paris for the contest and won first runner-up in this worldwide modeling contest. I was shocked because I remember walking in there going, these women are so beautiful. What am I doing here? I'm like a little tomboy Canadian, little ruffian kind of. And they were so gorgeous. And I ended up winning this opportunity to make, I think it was $125,000 over a 2-year period. And so I came back.
That's not bad for a teenager.
It's a damn good fee.
yeah.
But really, you're paying for apartments and you're paying for test shoots. And they're
Right,
advancing you to live.
And this was like early 90s?
92, 1, 2, something.
90s,
I'm not
right.
good at math. to be fair. So,
I am, but
okay, yeah. So I'm 49.
But nobody's
whatever,
counting.
whatever that
I
was.
wasn't trying to out anybody about anything.
Oh, I don't care about that at all. I've got no weirdness about. I'm the only actress in Hollywood who doesn't have a weirdness about age. I'm turning 50 this year.
Okay, so you're a teenager and now you're advancing. You're advancing a career and making money.
I'm.
Did you put any of it away?
Oh God, no.
You just spent it all.
Have I still? Still no. Have I learned anything?
didn't
No.
learn your lesson?
Have I lived really, really well? Absolutely. Did I give a lot of money away? Yes, I did. Did I save it? Not so much.
That's okay. Well, as long as your boys are, able to take care of themselves, you'll be fine.
Well, they've been forced to, haven't they? Because I didn't save my money. Yeah. They're like, we lived like kings when we were 10. What happened, Mom? I'm like, well, that's what happens when you have a mother like me who doesn't save.
Oh my God, it's so.
You got to make your own life now, kids. Get on it.
That's what you went to college
That's
for.
what
Yes.
I'm,
Yeah,
my,
well.
my girls are 13 and 15, and I'm already prepping them for that.
There's a
Yeah.
lot to be said for that. I actually do believe there's a lot to be said for it because you see a lot of kids in LA with a lot of privilege, and they struggle a lot. They really struggle. I think my kids have had to land on their feet in many ways because there was just a point where I was like, nope, I'll send you to college, and if you don't want to do that, then figure it out. And they didn't want to do that. One of them went for 6 months and didn't go to a class, and the other one was just like, it's not for me. I know it's not for me, and I'm an entrepreneur, and both of them have their own businesses, and they're doing okay, and they're figuring it out. They're still young, but there's a lot to be said for that. I have a friend in Canada who owns many, many restaurants all through the world, actually, and he's got a lot of money. And I remember asking him, I'm like, how do you keep your kids from being assholes? Can I say assholes here?
Oh yeah, you
you
can say.
can say it again
You can
if
say
you
fuck too.
Asshole. Yeah. I'm like, how do you keep them from being assholes? They're at NYU and they're going to school and they have jobs on the weekends. And this is a guy who's got 2 private jets. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he's got a lot of money. And he goes, I did courses on generational wealth. And I just recognized what I needed to do. He didn't even raise his kids in the homes that he has. I mean, he raised them in a simple home on purpose, just for this reason.
Wow.
And it's incredible. Like, they're the nicest kids with jobs and colleges, and they don't have to do anything, and their kids don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that kind of. So it's interesting. So
And-
my
and they
kids are
didn't- and
forced
they didn't
into
get
figuring
any-
it out.
They didn't get any of the money, huh?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, they were working, but Dad was like, I'm going to pay for your college, but you need to work, and make some side money, have a little side money and all that kind of
No, I
stuff, but
think
paying
that's-
for the main things and
I
stuff.
think
It was
that's
really,
so important. I mean,
Yeah.
So important.
Listen, I was not underprivileged growing up. I grew up in Beverly Hills.
right.
My parents took very good care of me.
Yep.
But I still did everything myself. I mean,
Which also happens.
right? Like you still got to earn it yourself.
Yeah.
No one's getting you through medical school. No one's getting you through
No.
residency. Like
Well,
you got to
that's
put
a
in the
great
time.
story and that does happen as well, of course, but you see the other happen a lot too, right? Maybe it's nowadays.
A lot more than
a lot
the other way
more. I
around.
feel like,
Yeah.
Sort of.
I do that with my
It's
son
hard.
too.
yeah.
He's off to college now, but it's like, you know, you
It's
have
the
to
balance,
teach them.
and
Yeah,
it's
you have
really
to teach
hard
them.
as a mother because you want to give them the world, and I did that. I spoiled the hell out of them when they were younger, and so they had to learn a little bit later. Oh, they're not going to be spoiled their whole lives.
I think we all learn that, right?
Surprise!
Surprise! Anyway,
So, all right. So, you're modeling. Your career's taken off. How did we get into movies? Was it just like was Species like the first role that you were ever approached about?
I auditioned for 4 things. So I got into movies because I was modeling. I was living in Europe and doing well and living what I thought was my best life. And that was a major adjustment as a child to leave, my hometown and go to a French-speaking city. And I spoke a little French, but not well. And
Did your family leave with you?
no. So my mom had a 7-year-old child at home still, and they were not. Sorry, Mom and Dad. They're a lot more worldly now, but they were not worldly people. They were terrified for me to go there. They did not want to let me go. In fact, at Christmas, my dad still said to me, it was the biggest mistake. I can't believe I let you do that at 14. I don't know what I was thinking. And my parents are quite protective and quite conservative.
Yeah.
So it is, when I think about it, I look back, I'm like, how did they let me go? It's just I convinced them so well that I was fine and that this was an opportunity and I was never going to have it again. And you'll see I'm going to be gone and I'm just going to go anyway. And I'm going to get them. I was a little brat as well on top of it. I got that back, by the way, parenting.
And you were emancipated essentially at 14. I mean,
essentially, not legally, but in
right.
many ways, and they really were under the impression that I was going to be well taken care of and that there was going to be somebody there in the home and in the apartments, in the model apartments, taking care of you, and that you're going to be really looked out for. It was not like that.
Was it
It
cutthroat?
was a free for all.
I
mean,
yeah, like
like
you
being
know,
in prison. You just got
just
to fight
toughen
for your
up and
lunch.
Well, I remember my first day I walked into a modeling agency. I was 14 years old in Paris after having been there for the contest where everyone's driving you around and doing your hair and bringing you to Azzedine Elias' studio and, doing all these fabulous things, but you're taken care of. So then I go back and I'm moving there now I got my suitcases and I moved into my model's apartment and I've got, I think, 500 francs, which I think was the equivalent of $100 a week or something to live off of, and to get my Metro pass, my, train pass, whatever, Metro pass. And I remember going into the agency the first day, and the agent was like, okay, here are your appointments. You have 15 appointments to go today, and go down to the Tabac and get to Plan de Paris and go. And I was just like, wow, she's got 15 addresses written down on a piece of paper, and I need to go to these places all over Paris, a city I don't know, figure it out in my little book. It's like the Thomas Guide for Paris, right? The little tiny little Plan de Paris. Figure it out in the little book and try and figure out what arrondissement and where I'm going. And I mean, so that was me at 14 years old. Talk about learning curve.
wow.
When I
about
think
maturing.
back, I was very fearless, super, super fearless. And I really didn't want to go back to the cold weather, apparently. Full circle.
How long were you in Paris for?
Paris and Europe for a couple of years. So all over Europe and Paris. And I did come back briefly to maybe think about coming back to, going back home and going back to school and stuff like that. But I already had the bug at that point. I'm like, no, freedom. Woohoo! And opportunity. And, and it was a kind of a dream job for the first little while, at least.
What brought you back?
I ended up going to New York, starting, to bring the modeling back to New York. And then I always wanted to act. So to answer long-winded way around answering your question.
I knew we would get to it
Yeah,
eventually.
we would get there eventually to the acting thing. But I acted in school and I acted in plays in town in Fort McMurray at Keano College and did little background jobs. I always had the acting bug. I always loved drama. I loved it. And so at some point I was in New York and I was with Elite and the agent was like, Natasha, you just have a lot of personality. Maybe we should get you with a commercial agent. I just never could shut up and just be pretty.
You have a lot of presence.
I guess it's that or just a knack for nonstop.
People just have presence.
Yeah.
Some people,
Are
and you
most
have that.
models just snooze fests?
I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I do remember several agents talking about keeping mystery, keep an air of mystery, don't let them know you too much. And clearly that's not me. I was just an open book and so yeah, and I always wanted to act and then I got with this commercial agent, Paul Brown. And anyway, so I ended up with him and I started booking commercials like crazy. I was just nonstop booking commercials and they started sending me out on films and Species was my third or fourth audition.
Wow.
But it was a process. It was many months. Like I went back to Italy and modeled and I was in Florida and Miami and they would get me to come in for a callback and then another callback and then they were casting that thing for ages. Then they flew me to LA to do a screen test and so it was a long process getting the gig. And I remember my agent, my commercial agent, coming upstairs with a bottle of champagne saying, "You got it." And I went, "I'm going to be in a movie." Like I'm going to be in a movie. I didn't know where it would take me, but I did pack up my New York apartment and went, sayonara, I'm out. I'm going to LA. That's it.
And you've been
Let's
here.
see what happens.
And you've been here since.
Yeah. Well,
More or
more or
less.
less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big move.
I just packed it up and went, let's just see what I can do with this.
So what was that experience like being on a movie set for, I mean, I know you'd been wanting it for a while, but now you're there, you're like, oh crap, now the rubber meets the road, you gotta really make it happen.
Do you know naivete is a beautiful thing? Because you don't even know to be scared. I mean, the process of getting the role, I think, was more challenging. But by the time I went into a room, a table read, where we do, read the script and all that stuff, and I was with Sir Ben Kingsley now.
But great cast, by the way.
I mean,
it's
the most
like
incredible
the most
cast.
incredible sleeper cast.
And I didn't know any of them, and so it was perfect.
Michael Madsen.
Didn't know any.
I
Michael Madsen, Marg Helgenberger, incredible. But I was 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
Or 19 or 18 or 19, whatever it was. And I walked into that room and I gave no Fs. Oh, I can say fucks on this show.
Yeah.
I gave no fucks were given. And it was great because I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? So it was very easy in that way. I didn't know it was going to be a big movie. I didn't know it was going to be, I didn't know what it was.
And Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest
I'm trying to remember all.
Yeah,
everyone who was on
Alfred
that.
Molina, Forrest
Doesn't
Whitaker.
it almost have like a cult following?
Yeah.
Species has like, a
Yeah.
lot of like sci-fi movies have like these followings,
Yes.
So I'm sure Species was such a huge movie that you guys probably still have a cult following, of that sci-fi.
There's a lot of people still to this day, 30 years later, that approach me about it, which I'm just so impressed that they even recognize me 30 years later. I'm like, thank you. And my boobs aren't even out. Aw. If my boobs were out, they might not. Well, now they might because you did such a good job on them.
I mean, thank you. Oh my God, you're too much. It's so funny. There's not a lot of movies that I distinctly remember seeing in theaters, but like I remember Rocky, I remember Raiders of the Lost Ark, I remember seeing The Matrix, I remember seeing Species because I was in medical school in Chicago at the time.
Okay.
Right, it was 90.
How old are you?
90. I'm 52.
52. Oh, yeah, so 3 years older. Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
It was 1995.
Five,
or
I think
so?
it was released.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I just distinctly remember that because it's like when you're in medical school, you don't get a lot of opportunity to go to the theater. So it was like, just really left a mark on me. And then fast
Do you
forward.
like sci-fi in general, or you were just like, that girl's cute? Because you were 20-something years old in medical school.
Do I have to answer that
No,
question?
you don't.
Okay.
No, you don't.
I like Natasha.
That girl's cute, and she's gonna take her clothes off. I heard in that movie.
I was like, were there other actors other than Natasha in that movie?
That's so funny.
So,
That was funny.
Natasha, you also did, so you went from modeling to acting, but you also did like campaigns for, was that Oil of Olay and like big, there was another big.
Oh gosh, that was definitely in the modeling days still. But Oil of Olay and Brut de Fabergé and Old Spice and
Yes,
that
Old
was the
Spice,
that was the
yeah.
commercial period. Like when I was sort of transitioning from the modeling thing back into, and I'm like, I'm in kind of acting now. I'm like doing stuff, Yeah, so it was kind of that transition period for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So after Species, there were several other features that you did, right?
Yeah.
And then you got into TV at what point?
Well, then I had kids, so I had my first son at 24 years old, and it was a great opportunity because I've been traveling around and working for 5 years and did a bunch of really bad movies, some decent ones too, but mostly bad because I was scared to death. I became sort of an overnight sensation, it girl. I was meeting with everybody at every studio, and I just
Right.
didn't feel prepared. I'd taken acting classes in New York, and I studied at some studios there and worked with some really good people and stuff, but I was really unprepared still. I mean, to be fair, I still am. Let's face it. I'm just doing the best I can, showing up.
You're so funny.
But yeah. it
There's
was
no
just-
right or wrong here.
Yeah.
See? So it's
I
easy.
kind of feel that way. There's some right or wrong in science, and even that changes on occasion, right?
Yeah.
Being a doctor, you even know that's changing all the time.
It's still changing a lot,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Natasha, you've done over 35 films.
Mm-hmm.
You have worked continually. That's really, really amazing. And you have some new projects coming up too, right? Like,
I do. I have a few things coming out. Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about
Spill the
that.
beans.
Yes.
What's coming?
Yeah.
So I have this kind of funny, funky horror thing, and I play the fairy godmother in this thing called Cinderella's Revenge. And there's kind of a little bit of a trend happening right now with the fairy tales that have gone awry, gone sort of sideways. And so this is something I filmed in England last year. And so, yeah, it's like a dark twist on Cinderella, basically, is the gist of it. And I play the fairy godmother who's just like a little niggling little devil on her shoulder instead of the real good one, who's like, take your power back.
How fun.
Come on, girl, just do it. Take
Get
it back,
trouble.
Yeah. So it's a fun role. I saw it a couple days ago because they're going to release it soon. So,
Where's that going?
good question.
Theaters?
These days it's really hard to say. Like some movies are getting small releases in theaters, but unless it's Marvel,
Spider-Man.
you know what I mean? It's very tough. Or something that was picked up at a film festival that was independent, but that did really, really well at film festivals. It's very hard to get a theatrical release. And you get them, but you're on, a few hundred screens or a couple hundred screens or 20 screens, or you know what I mean? It depends sort of how it works, but so we'll see. It'll be streaming on some things, and I don't know what yet.
Do we know what it's called?
Cinderella's Revenge.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, Cinderella's Revenge. And I did another movie last year, which is a really interesting script and a really dark subject matter, and that's called House of Abraham. And that's finishing up soon, and we're going to bring that around to film festivals as well. Also an independent, very interesting, very dark subject matter.
About?
This is
Not at liberty to say.
No, of course I can say, but this is why it's an independent and not a major film. But it's a place. It's the House of Abraham is a house where people go to end their life. It's like end of life rites. Nowadays how people are doing these what is it called?
Bucket list?
No, where they
Kevorkian?
that.
Yeah.
Assisted suicide.
Assisted suicide. So that's becoming a lot more common in a lot of countries and a lot of states and, all that kind of stuff. And this is a place to go to a house and choose how you want to go. And so it's a dark, twisted thing. But, of course, there's a lot more layers to it than that. But that's the overall. It's
That sounds
interesting.
Ooh,
it's a psychological thriller.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Psychological thrillers.
It's really, it was an interesting script. It was a good read. And so I was like, oh, I can't put this down. Do I want to do a movie about suicide? Okay. So
Yes.
I've got a dark, twisted, but there's more to it than that. But
When's that teed up for?
that is going to be soon. That's coming. I don't know exactly yet, but I will put all of this stuff on my Instagram and announce it when I know where and when and all that kind of stuff. But
So we have to follow you on Instagram.
yeah, you do.
to know.
You
Okay.
do.
All
You
right,
just do.
Fair enough. Well, you'll have to tell
I
everyone
follow
your
you on Instagram. Come on.
Well, you're one of 5 or 6.
Natasha, so you did Queen Elizabeth II an award. You got awarded.
Yes.
What is that?
We're American, so you need to.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's my
I'm
my question.
American. You're sort of American.
Gosh, I can't believe you're going to ask me about this incredible honor that was like this very cool thing, and yet I don't have a clue what it means.
So this is where the improv comes in. You could just make it up.
It means that
guarantee-
I'm kind of close to being knighted in the UK.
Oh, I
I'm like a
love
Canadian.
that.
That's all a lie. I'm making this up right
Yeah.
now. This is all not true.
Work with us. Work with
It's
us.
improv
Yeah.
stuff.
Sorry.
No, it's like it is basically an award that did come from the Queen ultimately and her people that says basically you've been a cool contributing factor to Canada as a whole. And
Oh my God, that's amazing.
it's kind of cool. I know my brother wrote me probably 6 months ago and he goes, wait, what is this award that you received? What is this about?
I know you said you downplay
And it's years
it.
ago. Years
my
ago.
God.
I didn't even tell anybody about it because
So
what do
he
you
doesn't know what
say?
it is either, so you shouldn't feel so bad.
I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I feel and I'm such like I do love the monarchy and actually even shed a tear the day the Queen died. I mean, I am a little bit of a sucker for that, so I'm not taking it that lightly, but I don't really know what it all means, to be honest with you.
Most Americans don't really understand Canada. I'm speaking mostly for myself, right? It's like a completely foreign entity.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I don't understand how everything's set up.
How they work, the
why
government.
they have two languages.
Right.
Why, I don't understand the healthcare system.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much I don't understand
There's
about
a lot.
Canada.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
I
I'm
need to
Canadian
s-
and American,
I
and
need
there's
to
so much I
spend
don't
more
understand
time.
about both of those darn countries. These
Yeah.
countries, to be honest with you.
All I know is I went to Canada and it's beautiful.
Where'd you go?
I went to Vancouver and I went to
Yeah.
Toronto.
Oh yeah, Vancouver.
But
so
Vancouver
pretty.
was
Isn't it
like-
pretty? It's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and Toronto
Gorgeous.
is great. I'm a fan.
Cold.
Depending
Toronto
on
was
when you go, I'm a fan for sure. There's a lot of beautiful areas in Canada and a lot of really great people, and it's really it's a good country for sure. And you know, the medical system, I'm not mad at it. Like, you might have to wait. But here you're just out in the street dying, so it's like,
Yep.
come on, we got to do something.
Well,
but I get crap for that. I'm very, but I've lived in America, in the States, longer than I've lived in Canada. But I have an affinity to certain things that are Canadian. But I'm also very protective of this country too. Like when people from around the world start complaining about America, and I hate it, and I'm like, why do you want to come then? Go home.
I
Stop
agree with you.
complaining. The Brits, the French, the this, the that. Ugh, Americans. I'm like, but you always want to come here.
Yeah.
We don't
I
need more
love this.
people.
Right.
We definitely do
I
not.
love this country, but yeah, the medical thing, we could work on that. We could work on some things.
Well, listen, the medical system
Yes.
here is really screwed up. I mean, really bad. It's become basically pay per play.
I know.
And all the
it's-
medical
unfortunate.
insurance companies now are getting out of California.
I know.
That's scary.
And car insurance. I mean, all the insurance companies.
All the-
Actually,
yeah.
insurance
The microphone's attacking you.
wasn't me.
Natasha, you are officially one of my favorite interviews.
I'm just a dork, and it's Saturday morning and it's pouring out, and might as well have fun with it.
Oh my gosh. So Natasha, how do you balance your career with being a mom, being, a working, full-time working, just life? Like, what do you do to sometimes just get grounded when because being an actor, there's so many things that people have no idea. An audition is just the beginning of craziness.
Yep.
And even before then, it's craziness. So how do you balance, keep yourself grounded? Because Hollywood, it's a very particular, So how do you stay grounded in what you need to do and keep that focus? Because you're like a lion. You have that
I am a Leo,
in
too.
you. Are you really?
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
And how are you able to just stay grounded and really kind of stay on your path and stay how you are, so just not up here in the clouds? You know what I'm saying? Like that Hollywood feel, you're just very grounded and
I appreciate
strong.
that. That's really sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is a huge compliment, actually, because there's so many wacky people here for sure, and I'm a little wacky too. Don't get me wrong, but
there's wacky and then there's
wacky,
affected.
funny, and then there's affected.
Right, you're not
nuts.
affected. You're
No,
very
I'm
down
not.
to
Yeah.
earth.
And I have to say, I have to thank my family and my upbringing for that. I think they're just super grounded, real people. And even though I left home when I was young, I think, look, some of that nature, nurture, there's a combo. I have kids. I see the combo of sometimes people come out who they are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No
Right.
matter what their upbringing is. But,
Right.
but I do think that my parents really helped ground me. As far as balancing my life as a mother and an actress, it was really, really hard. I'm just not even going to lie. I was happy I was young. I had my kids young, 24 and 27, but it was at the height of my career when I had children. I'm not sure why I thought that was a great idea. I had a
Well, the
burning
two
desire
things
to be a
you got-
mother. I really did. I really wanted to be a mom.
Both very demanding jobs.
Yeah. Yes. But I had none of that, I'm living my best career life. I don't want to do that. No, I really wanted to be a mom. I was really into it. And I'd been on my own for 10 years at that point. So by the time I had my first child, really. So in some ways I was very young, and in other ways I had been around for so long and felt ready in some regards. But it was really hard. I did have incredible help by way of a woman called Rosa Reyes, and I'm just going to talk about her now because she traveled with me. She was like my counterpart, my husband, my wife, whatever you want to call it. She was that. She was everything. She was so great. We're still in touch to this day. I love that woman so much. And she was with me for about 11 years of that time. That helped because there really wouldn't have been a way to do it unless I had a stay-at-home husband, boyfriend. And
Right.
he was trying to make his career happen, you know, and my parents had other, you know, I just didn't have the support, and I'm living outside of my own country, and it was really, really hard. So I credit her with that in a huge way because, you know, being up at 5 a.m. and learning lines and this and nursing in the trailer and doing all of that kind of stuff, like I really relied on her hugely. So yeah, that was a big part of it.
The Rosa
But
Reyes
Rosa
story.
Reyes, yeah.
We got to track that one down. I smell a biopic.
Yeah.
Oh, she's an amazing woman, and traveled with me and took her life and did her
How did
thing.
you meet
and
Rosa?
I found her through an agency because I needed help because I was so busy. I was so
So
busy
she
at
was
the time.
basically your
She
hired
was my
personal assistant?
She was a personal assistant slash nanny slash husband slash wife slash
Slash
friend
all.
slash mentor. She's just a beautiful human.
Where's Rosa now?
She lives here in LA, and she went on to take care of other children, and you know, she's just an incredible woman. So yeah, that was a big part of it. So anyone who says it was all them and they did it without help, I mean, come on.
Nonsense.
How
It's
do you do it?
impossible, right?
You can't. I didn't, yeah, I was working way too hard, and I just, yeah, it was just a lot of work. So, you know, they were with me and traveling with me and on set with me and all of that kind of
Oh,
stuff,
that's
which is
amazing
hard,
that-
which is
yeah.
hard too, but I did have that. I was in a position at that time to be able to do that.
To do that.
Which not every woman is. I have a lot of actress friends now to this day who are younger and having kids and trying to figure out, is it worth it? Do I take the job? Do I take my kid? Do I leave my kid? You know, it's hard.
It's hard.
Really hard for women. I mean, it's the age-old story, but.
It is.
It's hard for any career because
Yeah.
being a mom is a full-time job.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'm
huge.
constantly reminded by my wife.
Yeah, I know and your wife,
has
and your
5
wife
jobs.
is like I know your wife. I was going to say is like strong and on it and got
Oh,
her
yeah.
crap
she is.
together,
She's, I
yes.
love her.
and
She's
but
so
still
awesome.
balancing a million. Yeah, the sneaky wife that I never knew was your wife for the longest time. You don't tell people in the. You're like, I don't get into that.
Well,
Lil
you know.
told me.
Well,
She's like, did you know that Danny is his? I was what? Really? No,
Yeah,
I had
me
no
too,
idea.
me too.
I
I'm
mean,
like,
we
you know,
don't-
I
we
Googled
don't-
you before I went in.
we
and that's
do-
how I
oh my
found
And that's
out.
how you found out,
guys,
yeah.
seriously, like, we don't hide it. We just don't advertise it.
Well.
I mean, she is on my Instagram.
Oh.
She is.
Okay.
It's not like we try to hide it at all.
No, I'm not saying you hide it. I just was so surprised. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how funny. Yeah, it's funny.
So
I have
yeah.
a really quick question.
Go ahead.
And then
Take the floor.
we have to wrap up, but I want to ask you, Natasha, how do you think, because I left my house at an early age also, how do you think that shaped leaving your house at 14, having to survive really on your own? Like, think about your kids 14, like you find them so young, like you would.
Oh, yeah.
How did you think that shaped you into this strong, because you seem to be a very strong woman, determined. Do you think that had something to do with how you are now? Do you think that formed you at a young age to be this independent, strong woman? Like, how do you think that shaped you?
I think it's a bit chicken and the egg. You don't know which came first, because I did have a very strong, I've got this attitude from a very young age, to the point where my mom said, I just trusted that you were going to be fine. Like, sometimes I feel like you're kid, like you're the mom and I'm the kid, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so there's a little bit of that. But then being out there in the world, one of the major things that I think leaving home early shaped, in the way that it shaped me, was to see, I think traveling is so amazing for anybody. And from a young age to see that everything isn't this way. It's not all like this, and it's not the same, and people are although people are very similar in many ways, to see how people live. And I just became much more open-minded than I would have been had I stayed in my smaller communities.
I think it's so important.
It's huge.
Which is part of the reason I moved as far away as I could for college, and I want my kids to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, decided to keep your son at the closest university
I did
to
not
your home.
decide. He
You're
got
like, you
into-
can't leave.
Well,
Don't leave me.
Scrolling mother.
He went, no. Hello. He got into all these schools. He went, I mean, as you know, when you live in California, we're spoiled. We live in a bubble with the.
Yeah.
So he went to all these schools, and it was cold weather. He was like, no. And then he got accepted into Berkeley, and he went to Berkeley. He's like, I don't know. It's not for me. And so he chose UCLA, and I wasn't mad at him.
Right. You're like,
He thought it was his idea.
and
No, I'm just
then
kidding.
you get to do his laundry on the weekends.
Exactly.
Yay, you.
I'm doing it as soon as I get home.
See? Boys. Oh, boys need so much.
So real quickly before we wrap up, tell us, because I'm super curious about your interest and involvement in two charities. One is St. Jude's, and the other is World Vision. Is that right? Do I have that right?
I've done that stuff with World Vision over the years. I mean, nothing more than many people do. I've supported children and done things like that. But St. Jude is really near and dear to my heart, for sure.
What prompted that?
St. Jude?
Yeah.
So Danny Thomas, the grandson of Danny Thomas, is Jason Thomas Gordon, who's my son's godfather. So I've always been around my ex, the father of my children, was friends with him, the grandson of Danny Thomas, and the hospital was just always in our world. And then I started hearing more about it and just going to events and things and just hearing more about it. Then I ended up going to the hospital itself and seeing the work that they were doing there. And the most incredible thing about this particular hospital for me is the research aspect of it and the fact that they treat all these families for free.
Wow.
great.
With
Yeah.
Target House. I actually shop at Target purposely instead of other stores because Target House there also puts these families up for nothing. They treat these kids for
Oh, I
free and they
didn't
put
even
the
know that.
families up at Target House. And
Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable
it's an
organization.
amazing place. And like these cancers, these childhood cancers, the rates over since the 60s, 70s or something have gone, some of them from 80%, 20% survival rate to an 80% based on the research they're doing in this hospital that they share around the world. So this is not just an isolated, look at what we're doing here. It's look at what we're doing here and the research we're doing, and we're sharing it to the rest of the world. It's
Which is so
incredible.
important.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of my daughter's closest friends probably would not be around right now
Without.
were it not for St. Jude. She was diagnosed really early.
Oh, wow.
She was really young.
Oh,
And she's thriving, so
that's amazing.
that's
Oh,
really great that you're doing that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while. Gosh, when I went to the hospital in Tennessee, I went to the hospital and I was so overwhelmed. I'm not great in those situations because I feel like I'm too sensitive. I come across as a hard, tough broad, but I'm pretty soft.
But you're
pretty
mushy,
soft.
mushy
Yeah.
soft inside.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I was there, and I remember these moms of these children that were getting treated there coming up to me in the hallway, going, "It's okay. You're in the right place. You're gonna." And I was just like, "Oh no, God, no, that's not it. I'm just." I felt so uncomfortable. So I'm not great in the being there necessarily. I struggle with that a little bit, but yeah, but I love what they do. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so we are definitely out of time. I think
Yes,
we're
we
over
have
time.
to, your
What?
question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So I always ask my guests at the very end, if you had not gone into acting, modeling, etc., what do you think you would have done with your life?
Had I had good grades in school and enjoyed school, I would have loved to have been a psychologist. That would have been a dream job for me. And I feel, and most of my friends think that I am a psychologist to them. They come to me.
Yeah, are you the one everybody calls?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically.
Are you
or
gonna start analyzing us?
I already have.
Okay.
I'll send you I'll
She's
send you
got
a
it
full
all
full
figured
report
out.
later on. No, I can't
She's a
analyze.
Leo.
I can't analyze you today because all I did was talk about myself. But generally, when it's not about me,
Right.
I'm all digging into everybody else's.
That'll be part 2.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, Natasha, thank you so much.
Thank
I met you
you.
for the first time. Dr. Brenner's talked so much about you, really. We were prepping in the car, and he was just talking about like what a wonderful person you are, and he remembered the year your movie came out.
It did have an impression then. See?
Yes.
That's true. That is true.
Oh, well, the feeling's mutual. This has been lovely.
Oh my God.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes.
And
Thank you for having me.
before we wrap, we want you to look to your camera right over there and
Yes.
give us all your, how can people get in touch with you, social media and stuff? Don't give them your home address or anything like that.
I won't. Trust me. I won't.
No phone numbers.
I am on, so Natasha Henstridge on Instagram. It's Natasha Henstridge on
There it is.
Instagram. And X, I'm not on X anymore. Twitter, I lost my code for it, and I was just like, whatever, done with that. I'm not on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. What
That's
else
it.
is there?
That's
I'm not
it.
on
That's-
TikTok.
That's all
I
they
gotta
need
get
to
on
know.
TikTok.
But they need to know, like,
recipes.
when your projects are coming out. So
Yeah, Instagram's. I usually post something on Instagram. When
All
my
right,
projects
check
are
her
coming out.
Instagram profile.
Yeah, I think it's Natasha Henstridge or Natasha.Henstridge. It's got a little blue check because I'm so fancy.
oh my God, you're verified. You're a
You're fancy
verified
like that.
actress. I have a blue check too.
Oh my
So
God! And you only
you're-
have 5 followers. You
you're in
said
good
so.
company.
I'm in good company. See, but that's how to know because to be honest, I actually I did have somebody who was pretending to be me, and then it turned into a stalker situation and a catfish.
Oh, my
And the
God,
police
no.
were involved, and it was a whole thing. So the reason I say the blue check is because that's the only one that is me. I am not on Facebook. I am not on any. I'm not any of the other people. I don't have many
I
accounts.
got a lot of fake Kevin Brenner accounts out
Do
there.
you too?
He
Yeah.
does, yeah.
It's crazy.
I had like a real detectives. LAPD did an amazing job. They took care of me,
No.
but literally bad situation. So
Scary.
check mark. That's me.
I'm sorry I was stalking you. No, I'm kidding.
It wasn't you. We know who it was, and it wasn't you.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thanks
this has
for
been so much
having
fun.
me. Thank
And
You
we'll learn about all your new projects on episode 2
Yes.
when you come back.
Yep. Coming back. Can't wait. Can't wait. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Appreciate it. So fun.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the O.R. with Dr. Brenner. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kevin Brenner MD and KevinBrennerMD.com.